Marketing in 2025 is wild. Savvy customers spot fake messaging instantly, privacy changes make ad targeting a nightmare, and everyone needs more content than ever. That's why you have to check out HubSpot's new marketing trends report. It doesn't just show you what's changing, it shows you exactly how to deal with it. Everything's backed by research, but focused on marketing plays you can use tomorrow. You ready to turn marketing hurdles into results? Go to clickhubspot.com/marketing to download it for free. Good morning, everybody. Today's Tuesday, April 8th. I'm John Weigell here with Rob Litterst, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. Of course, we're all in a bad mood this week given the market's downward spiral, but today we're going to focus on the effects of this situation on airlines. When the market is down and prices go up, travel demand usually nosedives. So what are American Airlines projecting now for 2025, including American Airlines, Delta, United, etc.? We'll chat about all that in a bit, but first, let's give you the hits and headlines in business and tech. To start us off today, Pokémon and Google are partnering on a mini-game in Google Search. Users can catch 151 Pokémon, the OGs, in the Google mobile app on Android and iPhone by searching for individual characters. That's pretty fun, Rob. Nice thing to perk up the day.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting pivot in the war for search that I feel like has been going on where, ChatGPT and Perplexity and other AI first companies are, starting to take a little bit of market share on search from Google.
Yeah.
Google could obviously incorporate AI into search, and they obviously have. But I like this as just kind of like a fun play to get people back into Google. It's like, hey, come back, come play Pokemon with us.
Yeah, Google's always had an air of they do a little fun thing every now and then with the logo on the main google.com site. And
totally.
This is kind of another fun thing. You don't see me catching a Vaporeon on Perplexity right now. So
I was wondering if you were going to drop one, and I was also wondering what you were going to drop when you did. But yeah, more of a Mewtwo guy, but that's okay.
Oh, Mewtwo's sick.
Yeah, it's so sick.
That's a good shout.
Thanks, bro.
In some other gaming news, Microsoft released an AI-generated version of video game Quake 2, built to showcase the company's Muse suite of AI models. Researchers admitted that Copilot users might notice some, quote, limitations and shortcomings with it, though. From there, we jump over the pond to the UK. The UK banned fake reviews and hidden fees for online shopping platforms, including food delivery and ticketing sites. That's really exciting. Officials estimated such tactics cost UK customers about $2.4 billion per year, protecting a lot of people from a lot of silly fees from ticketing sites. From there, we hit the lottery. Mega Millions is more than doubling the price of its lottery tickets from $2 to $5, the second ever price increase since the game debuted in 2002. The game says it'll be well worth it, estimating that the average jackpot will be over $800 million, which is up from the current $450 million average. The lottery is also doing away with, quote, break-even prizes, meaning lower payout winners will now be up to take home much more money. Rob, lottery ticket prices going up at the beginning of potentially a recession here. Do you see any correlation there?
Crazy. There probably is one. I would be surprised if this has a big impact. I think people will continue to buy lottery tickets. I think it's just a matter of how many they will actually purchase. But I don't know. My dad was raised in a house of the Depression, and so he's super conservative. He definitely passed those values down to me, and I'm very conservative with money. And so I've bought a few scratch tickets, but not since college.
Yeah.
It always shocks me to see how much people spend on lottery tickets and how many people I know that actively buy lottery tickets. It's just wild.
Yeah, me too. It's pretty crazy. I think I got one on my 18th birthday from a friend, and that's kind of the only time I've been doing. I just don't even know how they work, even the scratch offs. It just seems so complicated to me for some reason.
It's a complicated little equation that can end up in a big payday, but the odds are against you, right?
Like a slot machine at a casino.
Literally the paper version of that. Exactly.
Yep. All right, and finally here, a couple regional domestic airlines in the U.S. are set to merge. Republic Airways and Mesa Air Group will become Republic Airways Holdings. Republic's Northeast network will unite with Mesa's DC, Canada, Bahamas, Mexico, and Cuba flight network. Combined airline is going to have over 1,250 departures per day. Rob, pretty interesting to see some of these smaller airlines getting together in light of airlines like Spirit and Southwest having such big troubles.
I mean, I think this makes a ton of sense. and especially the story that we're going to get to here, talking about how airlines are faring. It does feel like the environment for airlines has just gotten a lot harder over the last 5 years. I remember flying on, JetBlue or Southwest and getting multiple free checked bags, right?
Oh, yeah.
And now there are no free checked bags. They're way stingier about all of those benefits. And I think that's how it's going to continue to go. I think consolidation makes a lot of sense and honestly would be better for customers at this point if it can help bring prices down and help open up new routes. So I love seeing this. What was it? Was it Frontier and Spirit that were going to merge last year?
Yes, they tried it.
They tried and it didn't go through. I wish it did. I don't understand why that doesn't happen. I think they would have become the fourth biggest airline, which I think that in itself is all right, well, if they're not becoming the first biggest and a monopoly, then why create an antitrust argument against it?
Yeah. Well, to go off there, we're in for, of course, a bit of a bad week, but let's zero in on the airlines here. So, Rob, how are airlines in the U.S. being affected by everything that's happening with the tariffs, government layoffs, etc.?
So it's very likely that the U.S. airlines are going to cut their 2025 outlooks when they report earnings, which starts this week. And this is all according to analysts from the CNBC article that we were reading earlier, John. What they're signaling is that there's a crack in demand for travel. Customers had prioritized travel even through the years of inflation that we've been going through. But this seems to be the last straw for a lot of travelers. And I think it's partly just the scope and scale of what's been happening since these tariffs have taken effect and what's happened in the markets. One example, so airline executives have said that government travel, which accounts for just a few percentage points of their business, but millions of dollars in revenue, has dried up during the mass layoffs and other cut costs. So really interesting implication there of the mass layoffs that have hit the government.
Yeah.
But that's just one layer here. I think there's probably a lot more going on under the hood.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like even before this last week, airlines were kind of in a bit of trouble at the end of last year, early this year. How were things kind of looking at the start of the year for somebody like a Delta, American, Southwest, that kind of group?
So honestly, last month, Delta cut its first quarter forecast and they cited weaker than expected corporate and leisure bookings. So I don't really know exactly how to interpret that. But on one hand, you have consumers who seem to be a little bit more price sensitive. We're starting to forego travel just in lieu of inflation. And then more corporations are doing more cost cutting as well. I think just to try to be a little bit tighter with what they're spending, be a little bit smarter with what they're spending.
For sure.
And I mean, that's not just Delta. So American and Southwest also trimmed their outlooks for the first half of the year. Since then, airline stocks have only tumbled. They have not been doing any better. Basically, there have been a lot of concerns about weaker demand with President Trump's recent policies, most recently the global tariffs that are, over 10%. And so I think there's a lot going on with the tariffs, a lot that is happening with the markets. I mean, we've been looking at the headlines over the last week, and it's very clear the impact on the markets. But I think this is really just an outgrowth of that, right? If things are going down and companies have less money to spend and need to be more profitable, airline travel is definitely going to be a casualty of that, right?
Right. Yeah, 100%. The demand, of course, is decreasing and people need to hold on to some more money. It seems like with the market down, and airlines seem to know that. They're clutching their pearls a bit and their stocks aren't doing great. Like they're all down at least over 30%. The ones you mentioned, Delta's down more than 38%, American over 45%, United dropped over 40% just so far in 2025. So yeah, they're really having a rough time. That being said, it's not exactly as bad as what we experienced at the beginning of 2020, of course, because that, no travel at all, everything's shut down. They're not making a cent. They're at least doing something, but the outlook doesn't really look good for the rest of this year, but that could all turn around if things get better next year, I'm assuming.
Totally.
So demand hasn't disappeared exactly, but it is way down. Rob, what do you think the future is going to look like for these airlines in terms of domestic travel? Because it's always going to be in demand, but it seems like we're kind of at a low fluctuation point.
I don't think anybody's expecting anything like the pandemic in 2020 when airline travel basically completely dried up overnight and people just weren't flying. And I mean, I remember the sentiment of that time, and I remember what it felt like to be kind of in that environment where it was very scary and unknown, like what could happen, right?
Right.
I don't think there's anything like that going on. I think what's happening right now is way more economically driven. It's less about safety and more about do we have to spend on air travel? And anytime something like this happens, there's going to be some dry up of consumer demand. But I do think there are a lot of families that if they're going on vacation with their family or whatever, they're going to continue to do that. Right. And COVID was an impediment to those sorts of things, right? Like families that were going to go do a trip decided, we're just going to stay at home or, go camping or whatever. They didn't want to bring their kids on a plane and, risk them getting sick without knowing the severity of COVID and without knowing what it could do. With this, again, I think there's going to be big time pullback in the consumer area, not to the extent of COVID. I think from a business standpoint, you're going to see a lot less demand for business travel. I would assume most companies are going to start just doing virtual meetings.
Yeah. Pulling
to
back.
The extent that they can and pull back on business travel to the extent that they can. My dad is a former investor of Fidelity Investments. He's, been watching the markets for decades. And I was with him last week and he was just absolutely shocked at what's happening with these tariffs right now. So, I mean, for him to have that sentiment, I'd never seen him kind of react like that to financial news. I'm thinking about these airlines like, oh, is it like buy the dip? And I don't think now is the time to buy the dip because I don't know how bad this is going to go. And like genuinely would not be surprised if it gets a lot worse before it gets better.
Yeah, for sure. And unfortunately, that's a little negative. But the thing is, these airlines have been really focusing on their premium offerings too. So for maybe that high income consumer who this doesn't really harm that much, maybe they'll still be seeing some more premium seats go on these flights. But it just begs the question of will the flights fill out? And it seems like, no, not right now.
Not right now. Yeah.
All right, and that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of HubSpot Media. Our editor is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. Got a ton more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. Subscribe at thehustle.co/email and follow us on Instagram at The Hustle Daily. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey, everybody. I've been listening to this awesome podcast lately. You know it. You love it. My First Million, hosted by Sam Parr and Sean Puri, is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. My First Million features famous guests like Alex Hormozi, Sophia Amoruso, and Hassan Minaj, sharing their secrets on how they made their first $1 million and how to apply their learnings to capitalize on today's business trends and opportunities. Talk about somebody that's really in the now. They had on Mr. Beast recently, and Mr. Beast talked about his origin story and how he made his first $1 million and how you can make anything go viral if you really try to do it, which is a great listen. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. You can catch all the recent episodes whenever you want, and you can listen to My First Million wherever you get your podcasts.